Hey guys, and in today's video I want to talk about comparison. Comparing yourself to others can be detrimental to our faith and our walk with God, but it is so common in today's age because we are constantly shown through social media the highlights of someone else's life. But what they fail to show us is their lowlights. Social media is like a mirage. It the people show their highlights, but they never show the moments where they're crying themselves to sleep, them experiencing a death of a loved one, or a loss, or deep sadness, or their problems. They show their highlights and perfectly crafted life that looks perfect, but no one's life is perfect. So when we start comparing ourselves to other people, we are comparing ourselves to a life, someone else's life, that doesn't exist. And even worse, it it disrupts and affects our relationship with God and the trust that we have in Him. Because we go from, you know, trusting in God to questioning God. Hey God, where is my blessing? Why don't I have riches or success like this other person? But in 2 Corinthians 10, verse 12, it reminds us why we do not compare ourselves to others. It says, "We do not dare to classify or compare ourselves with some of those who commend themselves. But when they measure themselves by one another and compare themselves with one another, they do not show good sense." Just like this Bible verse says, it makes no sense to compare ourselves. It's like we are comparing chapters. We're comparing our chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 30. Someone else could be graduating university, spending 4 years of hard work studying, and we could look at them like, why haven't we graduated? But we only spent like one semester in university. It's not a fair comparison at all. And we do this so many times, to the point where we just create unnecessary struggle and anxiety to the point where it's almost self-sabotage. We don't need to compare ourselves because in ancient times we would compare ourselves to see how good we are doing compared to our tribe. But nowadays, since we don't really have a tribal society, there's no need for that type of comparison because people are on their own levels. If you're just starting, your faith journey, level 1, it's not fair for you to compare someone who's been on the faith journey for decades, 10 year, 15 year, 20 year. Compare the only person that you should be comparing yourself is to the person that you were yesterday and get better each day. Focus on your own progress, not the progress of someone else, because you're putting yourself at a disadvantage and you're making unrealistic expectations of yourself. And even worse, the person that you're envious or comparing yourself to could be wicked and living a life of sin, because Proverbs 24 verse 19 to 20 says, "Fret not yourself because of evildoers, and be not envious of the wicked, for the evil man has no future, the lamp of the wicked will be put out." So if we're scrolling on Instagram and we see, someone flexing their riches, the Bible tells us to not envy those people, because why would we envy someone that is going to be punished by God when we're going to be saved? It just makes no sense at the end of the day. And another phrase I keep hearing is, "you're falling behind." But when we break this phrase down, behind of who? Who are we behind of? Who are we falling behind? What are we falling behind of? When you start to break these things down, it makes no sense, because we are all on our own timeline. So it's not fair to compare ourselves. It just makes no sense, and yet we keep doing it. I keep doing it in my life. And, as I'm preaching to you guys in this video, whoever's watching, I'm preaching to myself because this is so normal to do, but it's also so unnecessary. So, how do we break out of this cycle of comparing ourselves? Well, step one is to show gratitude to God. Be thankful for everything that God has delivered you from and has given to you. This is, the best way, in my opinion, to not only get rid of anxiety, but to get rid of, any jealousy or any comparison that you have in your life. Because it shows God and tells him that you are happy with what you have. You're not envious of someone else. You're not wishing that you had a blessing that someone else has. You are happy with what you got in the moment. Because we all have something special, about ourselves. And that's what makes us special, and that's what makes us irreplaceable. If we were to get someone else's blessing, that would make our worth actually go down, because our own sufferings, our own gifts, our own successes, that's what makes us unique to God. One way to make you unhappy is to compare yourself to someone else and to try to be like someone else instead of trying to be yourself. That's how you create true peace. The second way to get rid of comparison in your life is to trust in God. Trust that God will give you what you need. Trust the Lord that He will provide for you and He will give you the blessings in due time, that His plan for you and His timing is the best timing and the best plan. For God knows your life before you even experience it. He knew you in the womb before you even knew God. God chose you to follow Him. He knows the full canvas and what colors to shade in before you even know it. So God is someone that you could trust. In my opinion, God is the only one that you could put your 110% trust in. Because if you put your trust in anybody else, or you compare yourself to someone else, and they fall short of the glory of God, or they do something that isn't good, then your self-worth goes down with them. So put your trust in God. And number 3 is to change your mindset. Focus on your path instead of someone else's path. Run your own race instead of trying to catch up to someone else's race or speed or lap. Focus on you. How can I get better tomorrow? How could I be better than the person I was yesterday? Instead of trying to be better than the people around you. A psalm that I want to leave with you before I end this video is Psalm 37, verses 1 to 3. Never envy the wicked, soon they will fade away like grass and disappear. Trust in the Lord instead. If there's one thing that I want you to get from this video is trust the Lord. Because His opinion of you is the only one that matters. No one else. No one else could write your story except God. And no one can make decisions for you except yourself. So focus on yourself. Focus on God. Amen. Hope you all have a blessed day.